What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's been a great week for me this week. Started out the week finding a Wild Turkey 1018 year here in Michigan, and then yesterday I was able to find the Old Fitz Bottled-in-Bond 7 year. So it's been a nice week for bourbon. This is a brand new product coming out of Heaven Hill Distillery. Now this has been through a couple different owners over the years. Actually, Pappy Van Winkle owned this at one time. And the brand itself started back in the 1800s, went through a couple hand changes, and then now it's with Heaven Hill. And as a lot of you probably know, these bottles are also put out in older releases. So they have, multiple releases, usually 2 times a year. And they are in those beautiful decanter bottles. The beautiful reusable decanter bottles, but those are usually charged premium prices. For me, it's about $150 to $200, if I could even find them, And what Heaven Hill really wants is they want this 7 year to kind of be like the sister product to the Heaven Hill 7 year bourbon. They want a wheated option and they want just a regular corn rye option, So eventually the goal is that this is going to be an available bottle and always on the shelf. We'll see if that's the case. I'm not convinced until it happens ever with any of these releases. So, but the normal Heaven Hill 7 year is pretty available. You know what I mean? That's everywhere now. So if that's the case, if they've kept up on their juice making, we're hopeful that it's going to be available all the time. So let's crack open this bottle. Let me just first say, this is a beautiful bottle. I mean, they are absolutely paying homage to the decanter style with this. And, I mean, massive cork. One of those corks that could kill you with. Not as much as the older releases, the 2-time-a-year releases from them. But for those of you that don't know, this is a wheated Mashbill. So we got 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley. So no rye to be found in this, but this is going to be kind of the, the counterpart to other distilleries' wheated mash bills. So, all right, let's start out with color here. It is a beautiful looking, almost honey color, not super dark. 7 years, bottled in bond means at least, in a bottled warehouse, at least 4 years old, but it's 7 year age statement on this one. Not too many legs sticking to the glass, but let's go to the nose. Whew. All right, fresh cork pop on this. I want to give this a second here. I got a lot of alcohol burn, and at 100 proof, it shouldn't really be doing that to me. So I'm gonna come back in just a minute with this, okay? All right, so I cut away from the review there for a second because when I first put this up to my nose, it had a lot of alcohol burn, almost like it was a clear neck pour. So I want to give this about 15-20 minutes. We're back after about 15-20 minutes. I'm gonna go back into it and see how it is now. So let's go into the nose. Much better. All right, it's definitely got, I'll say that just that wheated profile. Now this gives me thoughts of the old squat bottle from Old Fitz. Old Fitz had back in the day, that very classic looking Old Fitzgerald squat bottle. A lot of honey in this coming through for me. We're still getting our vanilla caramels, but it seems to have a very wheated profile, and by that I mean I'm just not getting a lot of rye spice on it. That honey's clearly there though. A lot of fruitiness too on it. I'm thinking lighter fruits. I'm getting pear, apricot, almost like a those pear cocktails, those little kid snacks that they had back in the day. Pear cocktail coming through. Interestingly enough, I was expecting this to be a lot like Larceny, just because same distillery, Heaven Hill, wheated mash, but Larceny gives me a very distinct breadiness, and I'm not really getting that on the Old Fitz. Old Fitz is made at the Bernheim distillery, so it's a little bit different, but very nice nose though. Very nice nose. Minimal alcohol burn once I did give it that time to open up a little bit, so I like that. Let's go into the taste here. Cheers. Yeah, it's still got the remnants of that Old Fitz flavor profile, which is definitely a nuttiness to me. I wasn't getting a lot of that nuttiness on the nose for this, but that Heaven Hill nuttiness is definitely coming through more on the palate for that. Now, there's so many different nuttiness notes throughout different distilleries. Jim Beam's almost like a roasted peanut, and it's not to that level with Heaven Hill. Heaven Hill, it's almost to me more of like a caramely nut of some type. Caramely nuts. Notice it. Honestly, it's pretty thin to me. I'm getting a almost no mouthfeel on it. It's got good flavor, you know what I mean? Like it's got a good flavor profile. It's still those fruits coming through. Not as strong of the pear peach cocktail like I was describing on the nose. Nose was definitely to me better than the taste so far. This may need some time to open up, and I'm gonna have to do a re-review or maybe a live stream where once this is drank about halfway down, we'll go back into it and see. Let's give it one more sip. You know, it's definitely got more viscosity and more mouthfeel and just palate punch than the Old Fitz squat bottle. You know, for those of you that haven't had, it's kind of a bottom shelf now at this point. But you know, this just has more of that, just a little more from the Old Fitz flavor profile. You know what I mean? I've had samples of the decanter bottles. I have not opened my 3 decanter bottles I have just because of price point and all that. I'm hesitant to do it, and I've had samples and they were good. You know what I mean? Like the age definitely came through more. Age is not coming through really on this at all. Hard to pick out age at all with this. If I didn't know it was 7 years. All right, let's give one more sip. Sorry if I'm going long on here. Yeah, I mean it's, again, as I mentioned, it's that Heaven Hill flavor profile. You know it is. But to me, it just tastes a little youthful. It's very lacking in that mouthfeel, that finish overall. You know, when I think of this mentally, I think of it compared to like the Weller 107. The regular Larceny, this is definitely, to me, a step up from the regular Larceny. Just the normal Larceny I find every day on the shelf. But when you're talking compared to the Larceny barrel proof, there's no question. And that's probably a proof thing, you know, more than anything else. But, yeah, I think the Weller 107 still is a substantial step up from this. And given proof, you know, it surely shouldn't be that different. You know, they're very similar. Age-wise, Weller's probably about that age, maybe a little bit older. You know, it's not really disclosed. But I get a much better mouthfeel, much better finish. And quite honestly, I like the wheated profile, I think, from Buffalo Trace more than I like the Old Fitz here. So, I'm not going to totally discount this yet until I'm able to let it open up, drink down further, and see how it opens up over time. But on initial pour, I am not impressed, honestly. I'm really not. I didn't watch any reviews of this. Maybe I watched Jason at the Mash Room. I think that's the one I watched. His thoughts on this. But to me, overall, I'm really not impressed with this bottle. The retail is suggested retail. This is $59.99. This just dropped yesterday for me and extremely hard to find. My local place, unfortunately, sold to me for $100. So I did. I paid $100 for it. And at that price, there's no chance I'm buying this again. You know, this is going to have to be an everyday, on-the-shelf, available product for what's in the bottle. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think it's good enough to where this can be any kind of limited release or hard to find, sought-after thing. Unless I just got a funky bottle or a not-so-good bottle. I'll have to go back and watch other people's reviews of this because I'm just not overly impressed with it to begin with. So, that being said, if it can hover around that, you know, similar price point to what the Heaven Hill 7-year bourbon is, which is about $49, $50 here in Michigan, if you want something wheated, you know, this is definitely an introduction to that wheated profile, especially if Heaven Hill is your distillery. You know what I mean? Like, Wild Turkey is usually my distillery. If Heaven Hill is your distillery and you love that flavor profile that Heaven Hill gives you, not to say I don't like Heaven Hill, you know, like Elijah Craig barrel proofs are probably some of my favorite barrel proofs and get the most out of the whiskey almost all the time. You know what I mean? But this just doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't work for me today. You know, it could just be an off day for me. It could be an off bottle. But, yeah, it's unfortunate. Well, unfortunately, this was a big letdown for me today. At $100 that I paid, and even around $60, it's going to be a tough buy for me. You know, I'll probably end up getting another bottle just to do a comparison to see if maybe I just got a funky bottle or a weird off profile. You know, I've had a few bottles over the years. When you drink as many bottles as I have, there are a couple bottles you get where it's like, man, that doesn't match up at all to what everyone else is saying or whatever, and I try another bottle and it's better. Sometimes it's not. You know, sometimes it's just me that I just don't like that. So, but I will get one eventually. You know, we'll do a comparison and see if it's just an off-profile bottle I got, which is possible. So I'm not going to completely rip it apart 100%, but for me it's just not what I wanted out of this bottle. So, but I appreciate you watching the review anyway today. Please do let me know if you guys had this bottle, the new release, at all. I want to know how you think it is and how it compares to, you know, some similar aged whiskeys in its category. Things like the Weller 107, things like a Rebel Yell, possibly, you know, Rebel Yell 100. I would love to do another Battle of the Bourbon series, so that's been on my mind the last couple weeks, and I'm thinking maybe a mini, like if I can find 6 to 8 wheated bourbons to do a wheated head-to-head. Of course, 2 different rounds of 4 we'll end up doing. That, I want to do a Bottled-in-Bond, so we could throw this in here for that as well. There's a lot of different things we can do, and I want your feedback to see what you guys would like to see. Last time I did Battle of the Bourbons, it was multiple years ago, but people seemed to love it, and I got a lot of feedback on it, and I really want that again. So let me know what you guys would like to see on that. Anything specifically, or specific bourbons you want to see reviewed as well. Give me feedback. I'm always here to seek it out and bring it out to you. So I appreciate you all checking out the review today. Thank you so much for being with me. Stay insane, everyone.